Welcome back to week 3 of Mermay, where I spend the entire month of May drawing mermaids and sirens alike once every day. And this year, I will be making my own list with the theme, fruits. If you missed my last 2 videos, their links will be on the screen or in the description down below, so you can go check them out before continuing this week. So, like I stated last video, and in order to make this list, I looked up different kinds of fruits, found out there's so much more than I ever realized, picked a website with just enough of them, threw them onto a wheel, and spun. And with all that info out of the way again, onto the video. Starting this week's video with day 17, we got blackberry! Another fruit that has a lot of lookalikes. Every time I was looking up references for this one, it was a lot of comparisons to other fruits that look just the same. Because, you know, that's helpful when you're trying to find references and making a whole list of a bunch of fruits. So starting with the 17th drawing, while I was sketching this, I was actually eating yogurt with blackberry jam. Because my favorite thing is to mix the jam with vanilla yogurt and at times freeze it. I like frozen yogurt a lot. This wasn't even planned, I just forgot I had blackberry jam. So of course, I know what blackberry jam looks like, and I decided to make her hair and tail fin jam-like. At least jam underwater. Because I wanted to make it seem like how actual jam would be, where it starts to break apart and float away when it's underwater. Almost like the hair and fin are constantly growing and just really flowy. That, and also because I needed some color. The jam helped me feel full and design my mermaid. Now the one problem I had was that I forgot about one aspect even during both sketches. If you're wondering why I decided to make her eyes without pupils, it's because she was originally going to be inspired by an anglerfish. Because the color of blackberry jam is very red and the fruit is usually very dark, I thought it would be interesting if I made a mermaid who would blend in the dark, but screams danger. I made her very cheery and friendly because she's meant to be deceiving even in the light. Your only warning sign? The very bright red jam flowing around her. But since I forgot in both sketches, I unfortunately forgot to include her little bulb that would have been either red or just like her eyes. I did include the usual quote-unquote spikes that are on blackberries in her design that could also be a warning. Those would be harder to spot though. But even with that mistake, I think she still looks adorable. This is the scales brush that I've been using throughout the entire month so far, and with the scales brush's help, she was finished. So, would you trust her in the water? Now moving on to day 18, we got strawberry! A very popular fruit that is used on majority of romantic occasions. Who would not know what a strawberry is? I did end up using the strawberry's actual flowers as part of my mermaid's design. If you missed it last video, I found out that a lot of fruits grow flowers before they're finally a fruit. I'm sure I missed more, but you can check out which ones I didn't miss. Now of course, I couldn't ignore the inside of a strawberry because they very easily look like hearts, especially with the reference I used. I decided to keep her hair short with one side shaved because I wanted to add some green on her head without messing with the shape. Originally her whole hair was going to be green, but then I thought it would be better to include more white instead, like the inside of a strawberry. The seeds were pretty simple and the rest of the time was for getting the strawberry design as right as possible. This one definitely took me a while and unfortunately unlocked the perfectionist again. That happens a lot. I really gotta speed it up. Let me know what you guys would have done differently, because maybe you might help me not spend so much time over small details. But of course, we still have a couple more days to go, and she was finally, thankfully, completed. What do you think? I think she is definitely romantic. And now for day 19, we got durian! Wow, I was pretty surprised by that, and also a little bit scared. Of course, many who know of this fruit will either tell you this is one of the worst smelling things in the entire world and super dangerous, or it's super tasty and used in a lot of ways. I mean, for as infamous as it is used a lot. It is eaten a lot. It is eaten enough for it to be constantly harvested. So, to anyone that doesn't like it, I'm sorry. There's plenty that do. Now, with this being a rather infamous piece of fruit, I thought I should make this mermaid a little different. Especially because durian is very easy to spot because of its shell. And, of course, the smell, but you can't smell underwater. So, I decided to turn my mermaid into a horseshoe crab kind of mermaid. After all, what better way to show off the spiky shell than to make it an actual shell? I went back and forth on the idea of making her tail either the inside of a durian tail fin or a club tail. Ultimately, since her hair already had the inside, I kept the club tail idea. For coloring, I went for a messy method to save time, since I didn't want to spend too long again. I used the directions of the brush strokes to color most of the spikes, at least enough where your eyes won't notice how messy it is until you actually focus on them or zoom in, which, you know, don't do. It will make you use so much time up. Honestly, the messy method was very handy. I also started coloring with the darkest shade first before adding on the lighter shades, like painting. We'll see if I keep using this method from now on. But for now, she is finished. Here is day 19. I believe she's pretty great once you get to know her. Moving on to day 20, we got mango, the fruit most famous for many people still not knowing how to cut it. I'm still not sure how to, since every time I try to follow a video, the ones I have a way larger seed inside than the videos do. I'm still probably doing it wrong, but I'll still eat and cook with it. I don't need perfect cubes, mashed up mango is fine. I was a little worried since even while making the second sketch, I wasn't 100% sure on her design, but I kept the references nearby and decided to go with the newest details, since the mango is pretty simple anyway, until you get to the colors and shape. Which is why I used the shape of a mango for her hair and the allegedly easiest way to cut a mango for the inside. Who doesn't love a little mango square? I definitely focused on texturing and coloring to add more to her, especially since I wanted to use the bright red a mango can have. Once I got to this stage, I was pretty happy with everything. The red really helped, like, just make the whole thing mango. So now thanks to that red, she is finished. What do you think? I underestimated her, and now she is one of my favorites. And now for day 21, we got blueberry! Time for another classic small berry to join the month. I've always wanted to design something with blueberries, though I unfortunately thought of having a blueberry jellyfish mermaid too late. Like, way too late. But I still like my little bonnet wearing mermaid. I changed a few things from the first sketch, like the way her bonnet is positioned, and more specifically her tail. I thought since I didn't have much green anywhere else, the leaf tail fins would stand out a little too much, and since I didn't really need any leaves, I turned them into a trail of blueberries instead. I didn't have any direct reference, but I was basically imagining the way she would move would be similar to a snake. I could say like a shark, but their tails don't really move as much as I imagined, so definitely more like a snake. I don't know why, for some reason, just the movement, it just got stuck in my head, and I could not do it. I wanted long sleeves since not only would it fit the bonnet, but because I wanted her to have the ridges from a blueberry around her design. So once I got it all down, I focused on color and texture. Of course, my main problem came from having only blue and purple to work with, but I think turning the ridges into a lighter shade helped a lot. I decided to use the scales brush all throughout her body and tail to both make a pattern for a bunch of small blueberries and to, of course, save time. Who would have guessed? Thankfully, once I got all the blueberries shaded, she was done. Ta-da! Imagine seeing a little line of blueberries in the water. That would be a sight to see. It'd be so cute. Continuing on to day 22, we got passion fruit, one of my favorite drinks, especially to mix with. So this one I was already pretty happy with when I started her sketch. The most difficult part, anatomy, especially hands. So of course her hands gave me some trouble, which is why they changed so much. But eventually I got there. I did think to leave her arms crossed like I originally sketched, but it didn't feel passion enough, is the best way I could describe it. I definitely wanted to make her a little more lively with her new pose. I already knew how her colors were going to be, and I don't think I really changed that part. So it was all about making sure the line art was good enough to move onto coloring. I've also realized that with a lot of my drawings, I tend to make them even bigger by the time I get to their line art. Like, looking back and forth from beginning to end is one of my favorite things to do because of the changes. Which ones do you think I've changed the most? Or let me know which fruits have been your favorite so far. I also did focus on making the more white parts wavy to kind of look like a shell. So now once I got to the coloring, it was pretty simple. I did have some difficulty trying to choose the base colors since they kept looking more pink than I wanted, but then I remembered it was just the base colors. They always change. Especially with my style of coloring. Honestly, she might be my favorite so far. I'm just really happy at how she turned out. I felt similar to how I felt during day 4 in my very first video. It helps that her whole coloring looked pretty clam-like too. Now with her clam-like hair shaded, she is finished. Ta-da! I think she'd love gossip. Gossip would definitely be her currency. Moving on to day 23, we got Starfruit! A fruit I always thought was just a little made-up fruit from people's imaginations. Because when don't we imagine stars? Especially since one of the times I would hear about them would be in a very strange crossover game. Anyone know which one I'm talking about? Definitely does not have multiple games with what people would like to say complex lore. Listen, I love fantasy and I'm used to seeing a lot of inspired things turned weird in a good way. Starfruit was not one I thought was actually real. And of course I had to make her have 5 everything. It's not a classic star that we all draw if it isn't 5-sided. Ignore the ones on my head. So I decided to give her star-shaped hair and a star-shaped tail, like a starfish. Except of course since the anatomy matches more to an octopus or squid, star squid. Looks like a starfish when she's still, but becomes a star squid when she moves. Something like that. As you can see, I was going to give her a regular mermaid tail, but since I was already influenced by a previous day, I decided to take this chance and make her the one with the squid body. Coloring was a lot more simple than I thought, because by this time I was already using the darkest shade first, and all I had to do was add in the green first, then slowly add the yellow to cover the majority of her. You know, to match the actual coloring of a starfruit. I think the starfruit was definitely a good idea to use for this method. I wanted her loud and lively, so once I believed I got the energy down, finished her shading, she was done. Ta-da! Your friendly star in the sea that will absolutely love to be friends with you. And finally for this video, for our last day of the week, day 24, we got watermelon! All honeydew and cantaloupe lovers feared this day. But now, the one melon that is beloved by many is finally here. Of course, it goes without saying, I am very biased for watermelons, and I will always enjoy them. So I had to do this one justice, especially since I already talked about honeydew and cantaloupes. I definitely changed a lot more than I thought I would. I initially thought I would mostly fix the pose and the hand anatomy and I guess fishtail anatomy, but I even added some more elements to her, specifically sea slug elements. These sea slugs, with the waviness to them. I really like waviness. Is waviness a word? Who cares? I like waviness. Though it's not like the sea slugs inspiration came out of nowhere, I just exaggerated them more as I continued to resketch and do the line art. More than I expected, but I am definitely not complaining. Once I got to coloring, I did try to use different hues of the watermelon to not make them accidentally clash. I'm not 100% sure if it made a difference, but I do think she looks amazing. And once I got her colors down, along with the main shading and all that fun stuff, finally came to the iconic watermelon lines, because I'm pretty sure it would not look as good without them. Or more so, it wouldn't look finished without them. I did not forget, thankfully, but I did change my original method. Originally, the pattern lines were going to be part of the line art, but then I thought, maybe just keep them green because I didn't want them to be the same color as the line art. Just like the previous mermaids, all of their lines are colored, and I didn't want to spend time recoloring the watermelon lines because as much as it would look really nice, I know I would spend way too long on them. So then I thought to make them over the shading and erasing them to shape the lines into the patterns instead was better, because they would be thin enough to not really need any shading and look very watermelon-like. So I am very happy to say she is finished. Ta-da! She absolutely knows her worth, but she loves her cantaloupe and honeydew cousins. And now here are all the days for this video. Thank you guys so much for keeping up with me so far, and I hope you stay until the end because next time will be the last week of Mermay. So let me know which days so far have been your favorites. Mine for this week would definitely be watermelon and passion fruit. Honestly, this week may be my favorite week, so I really wonder what the last week is gonna be like. But until then, like, comment, and subscribe for more, check out my shop, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye! Once the last 4th week is out, I will be making all of them into one video, so look forward to that. Alright, now bye!